Today I'm going to review the Starboard paddle range. In the paddle range we've now increased our shape of paddles or shape of blades from 2 now to 4 shapes. Starting with the Velocity. The Velocity is our newest racing paddle. So the Velocity is our high aspect paddle, and we designed this based on feedback that people wanted a paddle that could go kind of longer distances, would have less pressure on your shoulders and muscles, and basically was a bit more efficient. And so kind of with this paddle, we're really aiming for maximum distance and minimal resistance. So a paddle that you can just keep going, it's not gonna tire you out and not gonna drain your muscles. So what makes the Velocity shape such a performance paddle? Well, what is different, say, from the Lima is we've got this high aspect kind of narrow shape, which in outline, which again is really nice on the catch and allows you to have a high cadence and consistent rhythm while paddling. The actual blade angle of this paddle is 14 degrees, which means that you have a longer catch, which means you can lean further forwards and then pull further towards you, which means in every stroke you're maximizing again that distance. Also, you've got a really nice thin blade. So with this kind of thin blade, not only is it super lightweight, but as you kind of, again, in that catch phase, as it enters the water, it's almost like a knife and is really kind of efficient, doesn't splash, and is just kind of slicing through the water for that kind of, again, maximum efficiency. On the face of the blade, we've got kind of a really nice pronounced spine through the middle, and then these double concaves, which helps track the paddle in, as you're pulling the paddle towards you, gives you really nice control and stability. On the edges of the paddle, you've got these winglets, which help really kind of reduce the flutter. So as you're pulling the paddle towards you, you're less likely to kind of flutter and kind of move from side to side, and instead you have a nice stable straight line paddle stroke. The Velocity again is a paddle that's again designed to go longer distances, less pressure on your shoulders, and the feedback from riders using this is that again they can just keep going. And when we were testing this, especially going upwind, because you have a higher cadence, you're actually able to kind of generate more speed because you're just constantly kind of not getting tired and you're able to keep that rhythm. So it was quite a noticeable difference in just using this paddle. Then we have the Lemur. Now, the Lemur is our most winning paddle out of any other race paddle in the market. It's been in kind of the longest in the range, and again, by far has won more world titles than any other paddle. And before we introduced the Velocity, every rider kind of was using the Lemur as their go-to. And even when we asked kind of what could we improve when we were designing the Velocity and thinking about the Lemur, no one really had any faults on this paddle. So the Lemur is quite a different animal compared to the Velocity. This gives you a lot more grip and kind of instant power with every stroke. So unlike the Velocity where you've got a higher cadence, this you're getting a lot more grip. So for those that want something maybe shorter races, sprint races, or really wanting kind of that maximum power transfer, then the Lemur is going to be able to deliver that. So if we look at this shape, you can see that the Lemur is a lot wider as the paddle kind of goes deeper. So by having a wider tip of the blade, again, you're maximizing the area. So when you put your paddle in the water, you're really getting maximum area to pull and get that speed and kind of power. The Lemur has really pronounced kind of edges here and a really deep center concave. So again, this concave almost acts like a spoon and grips all of the water within this area and really helps you kind of pull as much power as possible. The angled sides help again reduce the kind of flutter and helps it fin towards the edge of the blade, which means as you're pulling it out of the water, it's faster and has a cleaner release. And on the back of the Lemur paddle, you have, again, these spine kind of ridges, which allow you to have the strength and stiffness that you need, but it means that we can reduce the overall thickness throughout the middle of the blade and on the sides. So you're using these edges to give you that kind of overall stability and stiffness. So the Lima is offered in a number of sizes from S, M, L, XL, and XXL, while the Velocity is offered in M, L, and XL. So now moving to our foil blade. And the foil blade is actually based off the Velocity shape, but is a low aspect design. So here, unlike the Velocity, you have a much shorter blade size and a lot wider in the tip, while the Velocity is more narrow and longer. So with the foil blade, it's only offered in one size, and that's M. And again, you have all the features from the Velocity. You have the spine through the middle, the double concave, the winged edges, and a nice kind of thin blade overall. But the aim of this paddle is really to get kind of the maximum area at the very tip of the blade. So the foil blade used for foiling, so with kind of stand-up downwind foiling, and if you're paddling yourself up on flat water, what you want is you want maximum kind of torque and grip. So by having the widest point at the very tip means as you put your paddle in the water, you're getting the biggest area to really pull as much power as possible. The other advantage of this is that when you're foiling, you have a tendency to sometimes hit your foil, because as you're kind of in sync by paddling and pumping, the foil will often kind of come close to the surface, and if you're paddling at the same time, there is a chance you might hit your foil wing. So having a short foil means that you're reducing that. So you don't have to put your paddle as deep anymore in the water, which means you're less likely to hit your foil, and you're getting maximum power without having to kind of slow down and put your paddle deeper in the water. So you're kind of skimming the surface with this as you're kind of pumping in unison with paddling at the same time. So the foil blade, again, is really about kind of getting maximum power with this wide area at the tip of the blade. It means that you don't have to dig your paddle as deep in the water, which means you're less likely going to hit your foil. The feedback on this is really significant. The guys just switching into this blade immediately felt the benefit, and kind of once you've used this from going from an Enduro or a Lima, you really want the foil blade when you're foiling for those reasons. And then kind of our longest standing, most trusted paddle, which is our most all-round and wave specific, is our Enduro. So this is a classic kind of teardrop shape, and this is what our world champion riders in surf, so Zane, Benoit, they all use the Enduro and they trust it. It's a simple shape that just works. So with this, again, you have a combination of what we've just looked at really. You've got quite a wide tip, kind of teardrop shape, which goes narrow as it connects to the blade or to the shaft. So when you're in the waves, what you want is something that you can, again, get a nice amount of power to paddle yourself into the wave, but then you want something that you can actually lean on in the waves to help you maneuver. So you want quite a large area so that your paddle isn't going to sink as you kind of want to dig and do a turn. You have enough kind of resistance that you can lean and help really transition from maneuver to maneuver. Similar to the Lima, you've got this kind of ridge that goes through the middle and on the edges, which gives you that kind of double concave, and then the angled edges there, which help reduce the overall kind of thinness. And again, this blade shape really is a fantastic offering for anyone that just wants to go cruising and kind of that everyday paddling. If you're not going super long distances, then the Enduro is a go-to paddle shape. That's, again, it's stable and you have enough tracking with this. now that we discussed the blade shapes, going towards our kind of shafts, this year we've got a new textured shaft which feels kind of really smooth in your hand. So if you're racing, you have enough texture that you can hold the shaft, but it's smooth when you're kind of transitioning from side to side. Also, a new feature is that we've had a kind of seamless connection between the blade and the shaft this year. So you'll see on the velocities here that you've got now no ridge in between the blade and the shaft, which means when you are paddling and you're getting close to your board, you're not going to hit and rub that against the board. And again, it's just as you're digging in the water, there's a smoother connection, which is resulting in overall efficiency with every stroke. In the paddle range, we do have a number of technologies in the blades to really appeal to different price points and user groups and performance. So here we've looked at the carbon range, but we have from our tough skin, which is our kind of entry level, the best value offering we have for schools, centers, families. We have the Tiki Tech, which has got our scratch-proof technology, which makes it super durable, and you have a really colorful graphic. Then we have our Bowser for those that want a more sustainable and more natural look. If you've got a wooden board, then you can have a Bowser paddle to pair with that. And then we've got our carbon, which is definitely I think the best value carbon construction that we've ever offered. And then for those that really want kind of the ultimate performance, the lightest weight, then we have kind of the pre-preg carbon. And it does make a difference when you're doing a kind of a long distance race. Having a lighter paddle is really going to save you a lot of energy over that and give you that advantage. So often we overlook the paddle, but actually the paddle is one of our greatest tools, and arguably in some ways has more effect than the board if you're doing a long race or if you're surfing for multiple hours. Having a lighter weight paddle is definitely going to be rewarding.